Green light? Can you hear me? Very good. So, hi, how are you? Thank you for being here. Thank you for inviting me. That introduction was very lengthy. The one thing you probably noticed that I am a fellow. So, so I'm a fellow twice. That means I'm certainly a nice guy. I'm here to talk to you from a psychological perspective about the notion of bias. Now, bias gets used an awful lot, and typically in a preaching type of way. You're biased. What's the matter with you? You need to do something about that. What's the matter? Are you biased against people that wear glasses? Are you biased? I mean, we get beat up with that all the time, right? It's used a lot. Okay. Now, that's not to say that bias is not evil. And I guess that's part of what I'm going to say. Bias happens, and it's a natural thing. In fact, I'm going to take you through a little bit of psychology about bias so that we can better understand this. Because when we know where it comes from, then we're better able to recognize it. And then we're better able to manage it. Okay, but I'll start with the premise. We're all biased, and there is nothing wrong with that. That's the way our mind works. Okay, so the mind, our mind, makes bias possible. In fact, it does it on purpose. Okay? So you're standing at me, there's probably 50 people in the room, you're all looking at me. So let me ask you, what percentage of what your mind tells you you're seeing when you're looking at me, what percentage of the information that goes into that is provided by your eyes?
80%?
80%?
95.
95%. What do you think, Em?
I said 90.
Yeah. It's 50%.
Oh.
Half of the information that goes into what your mind believes it's seeing right now is provided by your eyes. The rest of it is provided by what was already stored in your mind. Okay? That's what allows you to create a representation so fast. See, if every time you entered a new environment or you met somebody new, you had to fill your mind with new information coming in, you would be way slower in responding. And our mind was not made, shaped by evolution to be accurate. It was shaped to be fast. Because in our ancient history as human beings, if you didn't respond fast to environmental changes, you were probably not going to survive. So there's this very quick interpretation, data comes in, stuff gets filled in, and by the way, how much of that information is provided by the mind changes. So if you saw me, like my students see me 16 weeks in a semester, by the 16th week, it may be 30% that is provided by the eyes, and the rest is provided by the mind. So that's why I can start a semester with a beard and I shave it off, and for some students it will take about a week or maybe two to notice that I shaved my beard. And they say, when did you shave your beard? And I say, 2 weeks ago. I said, no, that can't be. And I said, you know why that is? Because for 2 weeks, when you looked up in front, your eyes picked up a few cues, your mind filled in the rest, and by golly, if your mind didn't slap a beard on me. Even though it was gone. That's kind of the way it works, right? So it is understandable, right? Our mind works like that, and it fills in information really fast in order to create a representation to which we can respond, that there's going to be a little bias that is going to sneak in there. Because it is the information that is already stored, some of which comes from experiences, direct experiences, some of which comes from what we've learned, some of which comes from what we've seen others do. There's probably going to be bias. But understand, bias is actually a natural occurrence of this fill-in process, of the way that our mind works to create a representation. So nobody should feel bad if they are a little biased about something, because it depends on where you've come from, okay, and what you're looking at. Our mind is great doing that. It also allows us to detect and adjust for bias. So we can train our minds to make us aware when we're being biased and to adjust. And after a while, we don't even have to think about it. See, when we learn new stuff, it doesn't obliterate the old stuff. It's still there. Your memories store and store and store information. Access is a little bit of a problem, especially as you get older, but it's all in there. So you learn new stuff that gets weighed in with the other stuff, okay? And one of the things that also happens with our minds is that depending on how stressed we are, how tired we are, how distracted we are with many things, when the call comes in and says, hey, I need information to fill this in, what is more likely to get picked up is the stuff that has been the most reinforced. Which means that if I'm 64, I've been living for a long time, and there's some knowledge in there that has been reinforced multiple times, and then there's newer knowledge, right? Now, I can train my mind to when that old knowledge pops up, that other part of my mind comes in and says, wait, we have an update on that. Okay? But if I'm really tired or stressed, the update might not respond quite as quickly as I would like. So even at my age, I can still sometimes find myself responding to things the way I used to respond to them 30 years ago. I'll give you an example because it's really good. My mom had a wonderful mother in some ways, but she was as strict disciplinarian. Yeah, Latino families, the mom takes care of the kids, the father typically works, comes home, doesn't get too engaged in raising the children. But my mother took her role very seriously. By golly, we were all going to be upright citizens. So, hearing a woman's voice that sounds like my mom still elicits a certain amount of she's been dead since 2001. But I hear that voice and say, and then things happen. Oh, okay, fine. But there's that first sound. Why? Well, it was reinforced for a long time, right? And so those things happen. Okay, so the mind makes bias possibility. It also makes it for us to manage the bias. And not all bias is bad. Okay, and now we are educators and educational institutions where great minds reside and new ones are created. In those type of settings, and in your jobs in particular, where you are actually trying to reach into communities, reach lives that otherwise may go in a different direction, understanding bias becomes really important, because what you're going to see in your roles may very well be very different than what you have lived. And nevertheless, it's still your role. So hopefully this will help you a little bit. Okay? All right, so why do our minds make bias possible? All right, so let's, I'm going to show you a picture. I'm going to leave it up for about 30 seconds. I'm going to ask you to study it very carefully, and then I'm going to make it go away. Okay, so, and then we're going to experience this whole notion of bias. Okay? So here you are, and I'm counting 30 seconds. Study it as much as you want. Okay. What direction was the water flowing? Down.
Yeah, down.
Down.
According.
What direction was the water flowing?
I didn't even see water.
There was no water. Sarah, what direction was the water flowing?
I saw a big house.
Maybe I should put it back up. I'm going to put this back
Now
up.
we're gonna see water.
Okay, so now you know that water, you need to look at the water, okay? Look, yes, there is water.
Where's Bethany? Where? Come on. It's watching him.
Oh, that's the water.
That's staying current.
That's actually.
I would call that right.
I didn't see that.
So what direction is the water going? Up?
Parallel.
down.
Yes.
Parallel.
Okay, so that's what we call convolution. Right? It is a two-dimensional representation of a three-dimensional structure. In the process, the artist created something that is an impossibility. Remember the movie Inception? They told you about Inception, right? They told you about in the virtual world, you can take advantage of certain things. Well, this artist takes advantage of the fact that our mind fills in the gaps. Okay? The water is flowing both up and down, but it's impossible. It can't be done. That isn't the way it works. It defies gravity. But your mind looks at it, and if I let you study it for a while longer, after a while you start thinking, wait a minute, there's something not quite right here. And if I had introduced it to you as a puzzle, if I had said, okay, this is a puzzle, figure out the trick, then you would have approached it from the down, and then you would have seen it, right? Okay, why is this possible? Because our mind fills in the details. Our mind fills in the details. How many people are in the picture?
Two.
Who's that two? Yeah, there's two people in the picture. There's a man sitting down at the bottom looking up at the waterfall. There's a woman standing over here in the far right corner doing something. Each one of us probably experienced this picture a little differently. Part of it because, and for some of you, you have never seen it before, so probably 70% of the data that was being used to create a mental representation was coming from your eyes, and we were working really hard, but your mind's still producing stuff, right? Your mind is still producing stuff. The whole notion of verticality, that comes from your memory. You know verticality because you experience verticality. Okay, and this whole, you know, up and down and stuff like that. So an awful lot of the stuff is still stored up there. Okay, our mind fills things in. Okay, and where does this knowledge reside? Okay, here's another thing. Okay, so here we have a very simplified representation of our mind. I'm just going to use it to point out three things. If you look at the center of that picture, okay, the little blue area, it's the thalamus, the hypothalamus, the pituitary gland, you know, that is what is called the primitive brain. Those parts of our brain are very similar to what you would find in a snake, or a reptile, the alligator, okay? And in the evolutionary cycle, that's some of the earliest brain structure that exists, right? I mean, fruit flies have a brain. They only have 100,000 neurons, so it's not nearly as complex, you know. But you take a crocodile, it probably has, 500 million neurons. Okay, so it has a brain, and it would have those components. Then around that, there's an area that's kind of in brown and comes down. Those are, you get the emotional brain, right? That is something that I saw a pooch over here somewhere, right? And so the structure of this dog sitting over here, it would have a primitive brain like the alligator, and then it would have an emotional brain, because that dog is capable of much more emotional processing than an alligator would. Okay? And then around that, there's this other area called, the cerebrum. And that's divided into different parts, and that in the evolutionary cycle was the latest to develop. So it's core, something wrapped around it, and something wrapped around that. Those systems are all working. They're all working the same way that they have worked for millennia. So once in a while, most of the time they're in agreement, or one system steps in and helps with another one. Once in a while they get misaligned. Once in a while they actually are in conflict. Okay? And you can all relate to the situation where saying, I know what I should do, but I can't do it. Or those times when you say to yourself, why did I do that? To the best of my ability, I cannot explain why I responded the way I did. I don't know where that came from. once in a while, we've had a drink of wine, or we say, oh, it's a wine talking, right? Well, actually, in many ways, in some ways it is, right? Because whenever there's a chemical imbalance or a slight change in the chemical, electrochemical mechanisms in our brain, once in a while, a mechanism that normally is being suppressed and challenged by another one, all of a sudden, it fires up and it comes to the forefront. It's just the way it is. You can just stay away from drinking, and you're still going to have your moments of, I don't know where that came from. Why did I do that? Now, before you start doing self-flagellation, saying, oh my God, I'm a horrible human being. No, actually, you're just human being, and we'll keep the horrible aside. Because these things are going to happen. These things are going to happen. That mind is incredibly complex. It is a wonderful piece of work. It is amazing. But it does have its little conflicts. Every one of you has a battle going on inside of there. In marketing, we actually use that to our advantage sometimes, right? Because we know that desire for particular types of products is not necessarily rooted in conscious processing, which is what happens over here, right? Desire actually comes out of the emotional side, and quite often is sitting there in contention with the conscious processing. And we believe that buying the product and using it is going to make you feel better about yourself, but there's a part of you that is saying, yeah, but I shouldn't depend on those things to make me feel better. Now, how do I do you more good? By getting you to buy the product that will make you feel better, or by supporting the notion that part of you is saying, yeah, but I shouldn't need that to feel better. At what point do I help you? That's actually a legitimate question. And sometimes our job is to say, no, listen to your conscience, or listen to that central processing that says, you don't really need this product to feel better about yourself, you're already in debt. But other times it is exactly the other thing, which is, no, go ahead and use it, because it will do you good. It will help you be more effective. It will help you be more loving, kinder. There's this emotion that goes on, this tension that's going on. Minds are messy. Okay, so let's go back to the bias stuff. Okay. All right. So, hello. Okay. So the mind makes us powerful, but it can betray us. Okay. One of the easiest things in which, one of the ways in which we are betrayed the most is in the notion of leaning or going towards the things that are most familiar. We are comforted by the things that are familiar. And that includes the people with whom we deal with. People who look like us, who sound like us, who dance like us, help us feel more comfortable. And we are threatened by the things that are very different. And again, that's a very natural response. It goes back 100,000 years, back to the savannah, back to our ancestors, out in the wild. Something that's coming at us. Does it look like us? Does it look human? Okay, maybe we can trust it a little bit. Does it look familiar? Oh, even better, it's one of our tribe. Have we never seen it before? That is the answer to that is yes. We should be scared, right? Chances are it's coming to get us. It's going to hurt us. Comforted by the familiar, threatened by the different, and it happens just like that. Boom. There is no, that is a fundamental response. Okay? Fundamental response. Okay, so now we have this notion of bias, and we're going to talk about two, explicit and implicit. We're going to start with explicit bias. Okay? What is explicit bias? Consciously, knowingly, up here, frontal cortex processing that says, I hold attitudes, I hold beliefs about a person, often, but not always, as a direct result of a perceived threat. Okay? That is explicit bias. I know I made a choice. I am fully aware. Let's take a look at a film clip that exemplifies that. It's a little old, but that's better because it keeps me out of trouble with you. And some of you will have seen this film.
The partner who spotted the lesion, Walter Kendall, worked for Walsh, Ulmer, and Brahm in D.C. Paralegal there, Melissa Benedict. She showed lesions on and off for the better part of 2-3 years. She says it was common knowledge around the office that her lesions were caused by AIDS.
But they didn't fire her.
No, they did not fire her.
So you got a go in prison.
Mm-hmm. Your line decision. Supreme Court.
The Federal Vocational Rehabilitation Act of 1973 prohibits discrimination against otherwise qualified handicapped persons who are able to perform the duties required by their employment. Although the ruling did not address the specific issue of HIV and AIDS discrimination,
Subsequent decisions have held that AIDS is protected as a handicap under law not only because of the physical limitations it imposes, but because the prejudice surrounding AIDS exacts a social death which precedes the actual physical one.
this is the essence of discrimination. Formulating opinions about others not based on their individual merits, but rather on their membership in a group with assumed characteristics.
Explicit bias. Those of you who haven't seen this movie, it's actually a very nice story with a powerful message. This man, because he was a man, he had AIDS, but because he was a man, there were assumptions made about how he acquired the disease, and there was fear that socializing with him would cause others to catch the disease. A female with lesions was not seen as a threat the way that the man was seen as a threat because of the insinuation of how the disease was acquired. And as a result, he was fired. By whom? By men who were afraid. Okay. Now, 1983, 1985, were we afraid of AIDS? Did we understand it? Some people did, some people didn't. We're not going to sit here and pass judgment on the fact that some people actually were a little biased against people who had AIDS. Today, 2019, hallelujah, we don't have that anymore. How did we get there? Through education. And what was once an explicit and condoned bias by our society no longer is what it was. Now I could have used other ones, have to do with race or gender orientation and many other things. I chose this one in part because we succeeded at this one. Our society succeeded at this one. You might still find some people that are afraid of men with AIDS, but the general population doesn't hold that view. That wasn't true when this movie came out. And that is the essence of discrimination. To make past judgments about others based on some characteristics and to make implications. To say, okay, that means that this means that this, that. Okay? Attitudes and beliefs about a person. They may have abusive personality, they may have contagious criminality, but at the same time, we also have very strong biases in the other direction. Right? Our society has a very strong bias in favor of young people. Youth is beautiful. Gray hair, not so much. So they're there, and they're there all the time, right? And whenever we explicitly apply bias like that, okay, but society controls it to some degree. The United States Constitution actually does not prohibit bias, other than when it is solely based on gender, ethnicity, or religious affiliation. There have been fights and there have been additional court cases, but really these are the only ones that right up to date are consistently affirmed. Bias based on these things alone is not acceptable in the eyes of the law. But to be biased on account of some things is not illegal. Is it desirable? Well, that's a different story, right? Hopefully, you all are thinking, okay, do I have explicit biases? I may not be stepping outside the bounds of the law, but is it really necessary? Okay, so that's implicit bias. We don't want to do so much more about that other than just, let's talk about implicit bias, because this one's a little different. This is attributing qualities such as laziness or trustworthiness and dispositions, this person's a cheater, this person's honest, to others based on perceptual cues such as skin, color, ethnic traits, language fluency, or apparel, but these attributions are automatic. See, in the case of AIDS, you thought about it, saw the lesions, and you arrived at some kind of decision, but there's an awful lot of times when we make the same attributions, but they happen automatically, we're not even aware that it happened. And I'm going to actually jump to the, oh yes, no, I need to show you this. I'm going to pass the other videos. I don't think you need to see them. I want to show you something. Just to see how, oh, well, that's me. If instead of seeing me the way you saw me today, if you had seen this, would you think of me as a professor? Would you think of me as somebody respectable? Okay? In fact, let me go back to the picture. It's going to show you Catholic, corporate, subsidized housing, and marketing. Those are all attributes of mine. But if that's all that I gave you, I lived in subsidized housing for years now. I came from a poor family. I'm in marketing now, but I worked for corporate America for 17 years. Now, but any one of those words would have elicited something, and then when I show you my picture, that's when I really, oh, long-haired hippie freak. But we do it just like that, just like that. Okay. And it's there all the time. So I'm going to ask you to engage in an exercise, and this is, so I asked everybody to bring their tablet or their smart device. In there, I want you to enter that address. Can everybody read it? https://implicit.harvard.edu/implicit/. Okay? The website is set up so that you can do it on your phone, you can do it on your computer, whatever you want. Is everybody there? Getting close. Probably all going to overload the Wi-Fi here now. Are you there? Are you there, implicit? Okay.
I am there.
You're there. How many? Does anybody need more time?
Let's just thank you.
Okay. You good? Everybody okay? And then once you're there, you're going to notice that the system gives you a chance to check your bias in a whole bunch of different categories, right? It has the typical, the usual suspects, race, body weight, gender, but then there's also some really interesting ones. If you've already done this before, pick one that you've never done. If you haven't, then pick the one that you think it would be interesting to see whether you have bias. And then go through the exercise. This will take you about 10 minutes, okay? Very, very early on in our lives, and they have a very strong emotional content, which means that the gist of that association is actually in faster responding mechanisms. See, as much as we like to think that our thinking is the fastest, it's actually our emotions that are the fastest. And the more basic emotions are even faster than the more complex ones, right? So fear, fight and flight, that is about as fast as you can get. And then you have emotions like joy or happiness, and they're quicker. And then comes the thinking. Sometimes we think and then we feel. The majority of the time we feel and then we think. Your mind feels something, and then your brain, your conscious processing constructs an explanation for that feeling. We like to think, that's not the way it is. I don't feel until I know stuff. The majority of the time actually is that your feeling comes first. So not surprisingly, deep-seated associations with strong emotional content are going to be quicker. And that is reflected in those millisecond differences that are measured by the system in terms of the responses. And then some people say, well, yeah, but it's noisy in here. There's a lot of people, there's a lot of distractions. If I really focus and I'll be able to do better. It isn't about doing better, because it's not about one answer. So you found out that you have a little bit of bias. Hey, good for you, that means you're human. So you found out that maybe you're a little biased in some things that you really know that I probably shouldn't be biased against people with a little bit of weight problem like me. But then again, you live in 21st century America, and you have been bombarded by a set of values that basically say, thin is better. Right? So you do, I mean, those things are deep-seated, right? And by the way, we live our lives in noisy environments, just like the one in which you just responded to this. And so this is exactly the same place where this is exactly the place where you want to do this test, because this is where an environment in which you're most likely to have that implicit bias come up. So I just wanted to, some of these things come from way down in the deep recesses of our cerebellum, which, oh, by the way, is associated with pleasure centers and emotions, in addition to managing our posture and movement. Everything is interrelated, but some systems are faster than others. Okay. Now, here's the interesting thing. Here's the cool thing. You have done this. You suffered the emotional shock, maybe, of saying, "Oh my gosh, I'm still carrying this bias around." I heard somebody saying something about, "This says that I have my preference for light-skinned people." That's a bunch of baloney. That's an emotional response. It's a wonderful emotional response. You did the test, it makes you feel comfortable, you're going to remember. Great, that's exactly the reason why we did it. Because now that you have that conscious awareness, and the memory of that conscious awareness, you are that much quicker to react when the implicit bias starts sinking in. And sometimes that is the best we can do. We train ourselves by reminders, and we help each other. Okay? And if there's one thing that I want you to take away from this session, is the fact that you can help each other. There is no condemnation in finding out that you have some implicit bias. The sad thing would be if you deny it, which, okay, you could. But even sadder, in my opinion, is that now that you've shared and you know some of your friends, your colleagues, your co-workers, the people who are trying to make the world a better place alongside you, have that, and you don't help them, that's really sad. Because the idea is, let's all accept the fact that we are a little perfect. Let's all make ourselves a little more vulnerable to others and ask for their help. Ask for their help. Be about the business of helping one another push back against the natural tendencies of a very complex system called your mind. When you do that, when you share, when you take the test, and you say, you know what, I learned this about me. Add the following, say, would you help me be better? I work with you. Would you help me be better? If you see me sliding, would you just kind of help me? Give me a little tap. Because every time that gets affirmed, every time that a reminder gets affirmed, it becomes that much easier to recognize it on your own and to push back on it. I wish there was a pill that I could give you, and I could give myself, to eliminate all implicit bias in my mind. It doesn't exist, at least not yet. Maybe by the 24th century, we'll be able to do something like a total recall, right? You stick something up in our nose someplace and it'll completely rewire everything. It ain't happening yet, but what we do have is one another. We have friends. We have colleagues. We have people that are engaged in the same mission. In your case, identifying at-risk young people and their families and helping them recognize and pursue a pathway that is probably a little different than the one they would have chosen otherwise. In the pursuit of a better life for them, a better life for their family, a better Iowa, a better US. That's your job. It's a pretty admirable job. I don't contribute nearly as much to society as you do, I suspect. But we're all in this together. And so my suggestion to you is, once you've learned something about yourself, okay, share with somebody else, and then be about the business of helping one another, recognize it, because I promise you, every time you think about it, it becomes a little easier to push back on it. And I think, yeah, okay, so that's sort of my last things. Do you have any questions?